Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Disorderly Podcast. This week, we're here with the founder of the Disorderly, David St. Martin. You guys have very similar names, by the way. It's extremely confusing. And then frequent contributor / co-host Damon Martin. And so I'm Nick Rizner. I'm also going to talk about this. I think we're focusing on Star Wars. But for the most part, I'm probably going to take a back seat to you guys because you guys are both, I think you fell on different sides as far as your opinion of this movie, but you're both knowledgeable, sort of huge fans of the franchise. And I've seen them all, but I probably can't weigh in as much. So for the listening pleasure of everyone tuning in right now, I feel like it's better if I take a back seat. But yeah, I'll probably chime in. So we can just kick it right off. So I think just a little blanket statement from what I understand. Damon, you liked it, and David St. Martin did not, correct?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
That is an accurate statement.
Who wants to start this debate?
Go for it, Damon, because, I mean, we did this like 2 years ago, and just like last time, you loved Force Awakens. I absolutely hated it to this day. I watched it the day before, so I watched it like Wednesday night before going in, and I was like, yeah, this is still trash as ever. Nothing softened. My heart is still black as a piece of coal about this new Star Wars trilogy. So, tell me, because I'm legit fascinated. Like I'm one of these, like, I'm not upset about it. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. You know what I mean? The classic dad statement, right? So, I mean, what did you love about this movie? Like, I'm legit, like, tell me, because I wish I loved this movie. I love Star Wars.
Well, here's the thing. Would I say there are parts of Star Wars, The Last Jedi, that I had an issue with that I could point out that I had a problem with? Absolutely. I mean, there's something about every movie that I can point out, and as I've had more than a week now to kind of mull over it, and I'm getting ready to go see it again on Thursday night, I've kind of picked out a couple other things that I didn't like about it. But by and large, I like the movie because it did a good job of kind of paying homage to the past with the stuff they did with Luke and, of course, Leia, kind of the old characters, the old guard characters. And then, obviously, kind of moving on to the next, we always knew this trilogy was going to be about moving forward into the future with characters like Finn and Rey and Poe Dameron. And I like the fact that they've done that, with this movie. It felt much more focused on the new characters, not so much the legacy characters. And I like the way they did that. It was a good middle film. The first film was kind of like introducing these new characters while you still kind of, fell back in love with the old ones. And then the second one was very much a passing of the torch in a lot of ways from the old characters to the new characters. I mean, were there plot points that I didn't like? Yeah, I mean, the ultra slow chase through space was kind of,
It was basically Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, there's an episode of the new series of Battlestar Galactica where, basically the Cylons are tracking the humans and they keep jumping and keep jumping. And then, long story short, they're running out of fuel to get away from them. They have to figure out a way to get away from the Cylons, so they're going to be captured and killed. Kind of the same plot point here. I don't really have a problem with that. They just, in my opinion, they didn't do a good enough job displaying it on screen of kind of like a chase more than it seemed like a very slow speed chase through space, I guess. Right. But I didn't really have a problem with that point, with that plot point. And then obviously the stuff with Luke on his planet, I like the fact that they kind of had to draw him back in. He was very disenchanted with everything that had happened with Kylo Ren. I like that. If I had a problem with that part, my only problem was I think he should have had a better emotional reaction to finding out that Han Solo died, his best friend. Finding out that he died, you figure he'd get more of a reaction out of him than they did in the movie. But at the same time, I kind of like the fact that he was so, just kind of curmudgeonly. He was just so, out of it. Like he just, he'd given up. Like he had really given up, and they had to kind of draw him back into it. And I kind of like that because, because the easy part of the film would have been if they would have just drawn him back in immediately, and he goes out and fights Kylo Ren, and he kind of comes back to the Force and all that kind of stuff. Like they made it a plot point to make it not as easy as all that. And then when they did bring him back into the fold, he was frightened by what he saw. He was frightened by the power that Rey had. And I thought that was kind of a cool twist. And then, like I said, there were parts that I didn't like. I thought that, they kind of blew a moment where they didn't develop, Supreme Leader Snoke more than they did. But at the same time, I loved the kind of twist that they did where they killed him. They kind of handed the power over to Kylo Ren and made him kind of the ultimate bad guy, even though, you kind of feel like he's not quite ready as the ultimate bad guy. He's not quite as powerful, but I think they kind of did a twist on The Force Awakens, where everyone's problem with The Force Awakens is it echoed so much like the original Star Wars A New Hope, literally down to a super, planet versus the Death Star, but I mean, it was literally down to that kind of a plot point. But I kind of like they switched it up, because I think everyone had pegged it from the very beginning that, Ben Solo being Kylo Ren, they were eventually going to turn him from the dark side back to the good side, and he was going to turn on Snoke, and it was going to be very Vader Emperor. And I kind of like the fact that they got Snoke out of the way, right, midway through this film, and they basically said, as Leia said in the movie, we've lost our son. He's not coming back. There is no turning around from this. And I kind of like that. Because they took away that plot point to where, now we're trying to save him. We're trying to turn him to the good side. Like, that whole thing has been tossed out, and now he's just kind of embracing the evil and taking on the resistance. So there's a lot of stuff I liked about it. There's some stuff I didn't like. I was listening to Kevin Smith's review of the movie today, and he pointed out a couple things maybe it was the one that I didn't catch them. I think part of Star Wars with me, because, I'm a massive Star Wars fan, and, the first movie I remember seeing in the theater was Return of the Jedi when I was a kid. Is that, when you see a movie like this, there's a lot of nostalgia attached to it as well, where you go in and you're just like, I want to see these characters, I want to see this. So it takes a little while to kind of, kind of gestate everything. And so I can see some of the problems he had with the movie, and I would say I agree with a lot of those, being, one of the big ones being the Han Solo point I brought up earlier. But by and large, I still like the movie. I still like the ending in the movie, and I still like the way it ultimately paid off. And like I said, I think it was a good handing of the torch, so to speak, from the old to the new.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm fascinated by the delayed reaction, because you know this. I mean better than anyone. I was out of the theater. Force Awakens, I hated it. I know right away. I don't know why that is. I have no delayed, no rosy glasses, no let me think about it. How people's opinions change after a year, and they're like, well, you know what, Force Awakens wasn't that great. I don't know what that is. I wish I had a little bit more of that, because I just can't enjoy it. I know right away. I was like, as soon as the movie started and they start with that, I'm on hold for Hux. I was like, they're doing it. And then it goes into Battlestar Galactica. I was like, no, wait a second, hold on. They have a bombing fleet in space. They're dropping bombs, and there's no gravity in space. But they have TIE fighters, and why don't they just send TIE fighters to blow up the ship? My brain just started going, screeching and slamming into walls, in the middle. I was literally, my poor beloved life partner is sitting there watching me just struggle. You ever sit in a movie and your head is in your hands, and you're just like, what? No, why?
Yeah, quick story about a space movie. Sandra Bullock. What's that called? Gravity.
That's
my least favorite movie of all time. I literally I was 5 minutes into it, and I was like, I don't really like her, and then I realized this is just 2.5 hours of her alone. What? I don't know what I was thinking, and I left the theater actually angry at myself mostly, but
that's a fair point. I mean, back to the Star Wars hate. I mean, because Nick, you literally just saw this, right? You saw that you got out half an hour ago.
Yeah. So real quick, I texted you. I was probably I don't know, 3/4 of the way through or something. I actually did a lot of parts of the way they ended it. I thought Luke's story wrapped up cool and all that stuff. But the same thing that really bothered me was the jokes. For example, I'm sure this is a moment that stands out for probably both of you. But when he gets shot by all the ships or whatever, and then he does the dirt off your shoulder move.
Oh,
that's I literally I laughed when it happened. I went just reactionary. That just popped out of me. But I didn't. Hindsight, watching the whole thing, I probably felt more in the middle of you two, but the jokes were my least favorite part. But hasn't that always sort of been part of the Star Wars universe?
Well, people say that. I don't know, Damon. What do you think? Because people have been saying that. Oh, people are talking shit about the humor. Man, you know what? I'll take an Ewok spinning on the motorbike. I'll take one of those. You know what I mean? I'll take one of those, bro. But there were so many kind of things that didn't land for me, and I was like, all right, listen, I like where the boulder's coming down and almost wipes out those fish nuns. I'll take one of those. I'll even take your reach out and, oh, can you feel the reed? Oh, I feel it. I'll take that. But some of this stuff, man, I was just like, ugh.
The part with Poe Dameron doing the waiting on hold for General Hux. Now, see, I loved that, and the reason why I loved it, the reason why I loved it is you follow me here. Poe Dameron is kind of the new version of Han Solo. He's the new version of Han Solo in these movies. Okay, remember back to the very first in A New Hope when they break onto the jail level or whatever it was, the Death Star. And he calls and he says, "Oh, we're fine up here. Nothing's wrong. It's a malfunction." And the guy's like, "Who is this?" And he shoots the thing because he's just like, "We're fine. How's everybody there?" It was kind of like that to me. Like, it was just a very funny, like, it was just, he was purposely just trying to piss off Hux. And it was really funny. I thought it was funny because it reminded me of that scene in A New Hope where it was like, you know, it was purposely trying to be funny, but it was, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a little bit of humor. And because, listen, I think you got to tuck in a couple of those moments. I mean, listen, I didn't really find that there was that much funny in The Force Awakens. I thought they added a couple, you know, there were a couple, like, for me personally, like the whole weird frog creatures, whatever they were, that were living on Luke's planet. Like, I disliked them. And the what are they? The Pogs, or what are they called? The Porgs, yeah. The Porgs. I disliked them far more than I did the overt jokes with Poe Dameron. I thought the Poe Dameron part was funny, but then like those frog-like creatures, like with the laser blast and then the rocks falling down, I was just kind of like, okay, that's kind of stupid to me. Why are they here? Like, what is their purpose? Like, I thought Luke came here to be in solitude, and then we find out he's living amongst, you know, the frickin' Fraggle Rock living around there. Like, that kind of bothered me because it's like, you know, Luke came here to be alone, except for, you know, these frog creatures and the porgs, and it's like, and a giant sea lion, he's drinking out of their tits. Like, there's that bugged me more than anything Poe Dameron said in that little sequence with General Hux.
The worst part, I think, and I think I had forgotten this, but I've seen it talked about, is the mama joke that he sneaks in at the end of it. Do you remember that? The mama joke? I have a message for your mom, or something like that. Isn't that the last thing he says to Hux before he slams the X-Wing into, does a tight U-turn?
I don't remember, but you may be right. I just remember the scene leading up to that was funny.
Yeah, it's probably been just pushed from your memory.
But, I mean, like I said, but my complaints, here's the thing, my complaints with Star Wars The Last Jedi were minor details. I mean, were there things that I didn't like? Absolutely. But, you know, when I start nitpicking, I can nitpick any movie. I loved, you know, Captain America Civil War, and there were, you know, parts of that I could nitpick. I loved Captain America Winter Soldier. There's little things I could nitpick. But by and large, did I enjoy the theater-going experience? Did I feel like I was sitting through a great Star Wars movie? Yes. Now, if I'm going to be overly analytical, yes, there were little things like that. Like, you know, Luke living desolate on a planet, except, oh, by the way, you know, here's half of the you know, here's half of the Muppets, you know, living on a...
Let's talk about the big things, because some of these big things, dude, are like, okay, well, who left the map behind for Skywalker? He obviously doesn't want to be found. I mean, the whole plot device of finding the map from Force Awakens is pretty useless. You've got an entire subplot with two kind of bit characters who end up being complete non-factors in the whole movie. Like, there's some big things in this movie that I have problems with. You know what I mean? The whole Finn and Rose thing with Benicio del Toro and his horrible character, and you're like, BB-8 shooting coins at people. I mean, like the Harry Potter chase escape sequence where they rescue some of that CGI looked 2005 Harry Potter. You know what I mean? Like the whole, like, well, let's get these horse creatures out of here, to a plot where Holdo's entire arc. I think a lot of people will just go out with, oh, she did the kamikaze run, and that's what will be remembered. But like the whole entire plot that sends Finn and Rose off on a wild goose chase in the first place was basically a fool's errand that doesn't end up doing anything. And it kind of concludes with another character, Phasma, reaching a nonsense end as well. You know what I mean?
Just real quick, because someone needs to clear this up. It's driving me crazy. Is, you know, the master coder guy? The original one they went to go get? Was that Justin Theroux?
Yeah, it was.
It was? That's what I thought. I was so disappointed because I'm just a huge Leftovers guy. And like when I was like, oh, great, Justin Theroux's in this? And then nope. I don't know if he's going to come back or not, but that was
I don't know if that was the real guy that they were trying to find, but that actor playing that role shooting the craps dice or whatever, that was him.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if it's known whether or not that was the master splicer that Maz Kanata sends them to go get. I don't know.
I believe it was because she said he would have that rose thing on his lapel, but the problem was they got captured before they got to him, and that's when they meet Benicio del Toro's character, and he's just like, oh, I can help you out with this. So you have to dig a little deeper in the plot with that, but the thing, basically they didn't get the guy who they were supposed to go get. Like, they didn't get the guy that Maz Kanata actually suggested them to get. They got kind of a smuggler, kind of a bad guy, and that's why he turned on them, was because they didn't get the guy they were supposed to get. They got somebody else that was supposed to help them, and when really he was just out for money, and it was kind of like, screwing them over in the end.
I feel like the first original guy they got wouldn't have been much better, but like, you're a professional kind of mercenary hacker. You know what I mean? Like, I guess you kind of take what you get. But
well, the biggest plot point about that casino planet that I did enjoy,
it is getting beat the shit out of. That whole thing is getting murdered.
I don't disagree that the end road, if they had paid off, if they had taken out the tracker, you know what I mean, then I think it would all been worthwhile. The fact that they didn't kind of makes it all like, why did you go there in the first place? But the one thing I did like was at the very end of the movie, where you saw that little kid that they had in that, taking care of those weird horse creatures, where he kind of pulls the broom to him, those last few feet. Like, you see the force at work, and you see him reveal that resistance ring that Rose gave to him. If that's the payoff at the end of all that, and I understand that whole big section of the movie kind of had no payoff if they don't actually disable the tracker, but that little part made it like satisfactory to me because it did two things. One, it showed that the resistance was spreading, because that was kind of the whole point of that the third act of the movie, was when they sent out a distress signal, nobody came to help them. Like, they're basically saying, we're screwed, no one's coming to help. And it was like, oh crap, like, how are we gonna fight this army when there's like 20 of us left and there's nothing left to do? Seeing that it kind of spread, the message a little bit onto this kind of, planet. It was a little bit of social commentary on the current status where we're at in the United States with, with Trump in office and the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, that kind of thing. I think it was a little bit of social commentary there. But then I think when seeing that last thing with the Force, where they kind of did the same thing with Rey this movie, where they basically said that, she wasn't from a Skywalker. She's not Luke's kid, as we all guess. Like, she's just some girl who grew up on a garbage planet who just happened to be connected to the Force. Like, I kind of like that. And the reason I do is because so much of Star Wars has been built around the kind of the Skywalker, saga. And I get that. I get it. And up to this point, it's made sense. But if you're going to move forward with, episodes, if you're going to move forward episodes, 10, 11, 12, or you're going to, go down the road, you can't just have the Force and the Jedi be solely focused on the Skywalkers, because they're all going to be dead. You know what I mean? You got to move forward. So I kind of like that little payoff at the end where that kid kind of force pulls that broom into his hand, and then you see him reveal that resistance ring. It's kind of like our message is spreading, and there are more people out there in the universe that will grow up to help us. And I kind of like that because it kind of twisted us away a little bit from the Skywalker thing. Not because obviously we don't we don't love the Skywalkers, but if they're going to move forward, they have to find somebody else to follow besides him, besides Luke, and besides Leia.
Well, they're gonna die out here real quick, right? Unless Kylo Ren gets down to business. They're just right. That whole lineage is going out.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's kind of the point. That, if they're going to move forward, they have to. You know what I mean? One thing I did like when Star Wars originally ended, and they had the books by Timothy Zahn. I don't know if you ever read those. So I like those books very much. I don't know. Do you hate them? Because I like.
No. I'm believe me, dude. Believe me. That I grew up just reading everything. I was like,
so I like those. I like those myself. You know what I mean? I like those a lot, and I like the more detail they gave with the kids and the twins. They had more. They had
Jason
more,
and Jaina and Anakin and all the kids.
Yeah, they had more of that. And if there's one aspect of Force Awakens and Last Jedi, I wish they had kind of done that. Is kind of spread that out a little bit to kind of continue with the Skywalker line. But at the same time, I get it that you can't always have it come back to this, because sadly, as we all know, Carrie Fisher is no longer with us, and that's kind of already kind of boned up that third movie because, they didn't, they made the movie and they left it as is, and I respect that decision not to suddenly change it just because she passed away. Like, I enjoyed that because I know it's not going to give her the exit we probably want, but I'm glad they didn't just change the movie just to, you know what I mean? Like, I'm glad they didn't change just for that, because I think that would have been a discredit to the story, and really a discredit to her as a character. But the reality is that Luke's gone now, and now we know Leia's going to be gone as well. They have to go in another direction. That's where I said I wish they had done kind of like those Star Wars novels where they had Grand Admiral Thrawn as the bad guy and they had the kids, but because they didn't, because they decided not to go that route, I'm kind of glad that they're going in a different direction. Or if they're going to continue that lineage, it's going to come from Kylo Ren, who is an asshole, who is the bad guy. And then if we see a Skywalker at some point in the future, maybe it's a kid he had, and it's like, the dark side of the Force is already with them or whatever. You know what I mean? Kind of, because it's always been about bringing the Skywalkers to good. Maybe now this next lineage is going to be, evil Skywalkers. I don't know. It's just, that's kind of my idea.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I struggle with so many of the points here, but because there is a republic, right? I mean, when we start in the Force Awakens, there's planets, and a lot of them they got killed, they blew up by the Starkiller base or whatever. But to go from it asks so much, because it's asking me to believe that they went from being. One of the things I liked about The Force Awakens and the whole reboot was that the sort of quasi-empire is now kind of the ragtag group, right? Kind of the small upstart coming back into power, things like that. But they completely shift the narrative going into the second film, where no time has supposedly, right? We pick up right where we left off, but now it feels like it's a totally different universe. The climate's totally different. All of a sudden, the so-called fleet, the Republic fleet, is like 3 to 4 ships. And then by the end of it, it's 20 people, and no one would pick up the phone. So how I just had such a hard time kind of understanding what they want us to understand as the climate of this. You know what I mean? Because they're asking us to understand the Rebel Alliance and rebooting that whole thing. But what is the dynamic going on? You know what I mean? I can't understand where they have this going.
Here's my thought on that, and I agree, because they picked up just seconds after the last one ended was kind of the idea. At least that's what I got out of it. I think the general idea I had was, and I always go back to other TV shows like, like The Walking Dead, or I don't know if you ever watched the show Jericho that was on years ago. Phenomenal show, very short-lived, but it was a great show. But in that show, the idea of the show is basically there's a series of nuclear attacks on the United States on like every major city, like New York, LA, Washington, D.C., like all the big cities are just wiped off the map, right? And so like the power structure of the United States is just completely destroyed. Like there's nothing left. Like every person in governmental power, with the exception of like a few senators and that kind of thing, are all wiped out. And you see how quickly it takes people to kind of turn on themselves when there isn't like a government or somebody over top of them. And I kind of think of it like The Walking Dead. Like if the zombie apocalypse actually broke out, like let's say hypothetically it did, it wouldn't take long for like neighbor to start killing neighbor and like, people to fight for themselves. Like it would take very little for our entire like society to fall into disarray. If the world kind of fell apart, if you just pull away government altogether and police and everything else, it would just, forgive me for lack of a better word and forgive my language, it would just go to shit in a hurry. And so that's kind of my thought with this. When they destroyed is it Coruscant or Coruscant? I can't how you pronounce it. Coruscant. When they destroyed Coruscant and they destroyed basically the government, basically anything in there, and they destroy like all the other, planets where, kind of the Republic government was at, I have a feeling that like things would fall into disarray that quickly. Like people would just like, they would have nothing to turn to. They have no one. Like I think we all kind of lose sight of like, what if you dialed 911 and no one answered? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like how quickly would we all freak out and like go into like almost like a anarchy state when the things we expect to be there are no longer there. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Is when they destroy that planet, they destroy all the planets with like the government agencies, whatever, of the Republic. The whole world, the whole galaxy just kind of falls into disarray because it's like, hold on now, who's watching the shop? Nobody's watching the shop? Okay, you're going to have some people, that don't want to get involved, like they don't want to answer the Republic, they don't want to answer the resistance call, and then you get the other side of people who are going to try to take advantage of this and make money off of it. And so I kind of think of it in that realm where it doesn't take long for from a situation like that for the world to just go crazy.
I just want to know where they ended up getting all these dreadnoughts from. Like, how do they lose Starkiller Base and then they're like, nah, that's cool. We just got a couple dreadnoughts. You know what I mean? That blew me away. All right, so let's move on. I got a lot of little gripes. I got Space Leia, Mary Poppins. I got Yoda. I got all these little things. I'm not going to nitpick, but let's talk about what was I literally just thinking about? The Snoke. Are we kind of agreed upon that he was literally just sort of the biggest trollish plot device in Star Wars history?
I would say so. Okay, here's what I'd say. I liked the way they got rid of him. I thought that was a nice twist. They kind of turned the power over to Kylo Ren right away. I like that because that was a twist from the original Star Wars. We didn't have this Emperor character. We kind of hand the power. Like, what would the universe have been like if Darth Vader had taken over and the Emperor had gone away? Like, that kind of thing. So I like that. But the part I didn't like, and I feel like we should have gotten some more explanations. Who was this guy? Like, where did he come from? What was his point? Like, I understand the frustration. That was actually one of the things I was going to talk about. Like, there was a frustrating point. Like, I'm fine with the way they got rid of him, but I don't understand what his point was.
Right. No, I'm sure in 2020 we'll have a novel or something that'll explain it. But, I mean, and that's basically what Rian Johnson was like. Yeah, I don't know. They'll figure out something. And I'm like, that's so lame. And then people are like, well, you can't really, it's their story, man. You can't have expectations and blah, blah. Like, how do you feel about this kind of backlash to like, hey, well, it's Star Wars, man, and whatever they want to do, don't have expectations going into Star Wars, especially when they have insanely mysterious people played by the greatest working motion capture artist alive in Andy Serkis and the most mysterious character. Don't have any expectations. How dare you?
I feel like I can jump in on that point because being not that into the Star, like I've seen every movie, like I said, but I'm not that into it, and I feel like you're almost like not allowed to dislike Star Wars, and there is that sort of backlash from people. It's like, oh, you have to let Star Wars be Star Wars, and you almost can't. It's such a massive franchise that spans all these decades that you almost can't even I feel like that, like, just as someone from the outside, it's like, oh, I'm not that into Star Wars. People are like, what? And they like don't understand. It's so much hard to look at it as a regular movie because it has all of this sort of legacy and nostalgia wrapped into it that you can almost get away with things that you couldn't if it was just like a standalone film.
Yep, totally.
I think the thing with Star Wars that's so odd to me is that everyone has this attachment to the story. And they have problems with the directions they take. And I have problems, you have problems, we all have certain problems. But the problem in Star Wars, where we can't really complain, is that there is no basis to go upon. This isn't based on, like when they change Superman in Justice League, and they change Batman in Justice League, where he's like burning people with, his bat symbol and stuff, like, you're like, whoa, that's not Batman. Like, that's not who Batman is. Like, he's never been this way. That's not Batman. That anger makes sense to me because we have decades upon decades of Batman stories to tell us that's not who Batman is. We don't really have that with Star Wars. They're making this up as they go along. If this was, George Lucas always
had the outlines. I was going to say we had the Lucas outlines, Damon.
If we had that, kind of like the grand story, the way it was supposed to go, and they changed it dramatically, then I could see where there would be more of a problem. But I'm not saying you can't have complaints. You absolutely can. Everyone, listen, there's complaints I had about Return of the Jedi, and that's from the original trilogy. But I think ultimately you have to remember there's no map, I guess is the best way to say it. There's no map for Star Wars. Like, the way they're doing it and the way that they're making this is how they envision it going. And I may not agree with some parts, and I may not like some parts, but I can't get that, like, blown out of proportion upset because ultimately there is no map, there is no book, there is no, I like some of the changes they made in Game of Thrones versus the way George R.R. Martin did it in the books. You know what I mean? Like, I think some of the changes they made there have been good because I think George R.R. Martin got a little too into creating new characters at some points. But like I said, I also understand the other side of people saying they should have done it exactly like the books. But there is a guide there. There is a map there. We don't have that with Star Wars, so it's harder to really get upset because what do you really do with that? Like, what do you know what I mean? Like, there's no right or wrong answer because there is no map.
Well, to that point, because I feel like this is if I'm going to look at the main criticism from what I've seen that comes from the diehard side of the fandom, I feel like it really centered around the way Luke acted and how he was like older and like that's not the Luke that I know. Not even the joke, more like the brooding and just like But I feel like you said, to your point, if this is however many decades later, and Luke obviously has the backstory of what happened with Kylo Ren and all this stuff, then that would change a person's personality and approach. So I feel like that's almost like an unjustified criticism from a lot of people.
Well, even Mark Hamill was pretty pissed off. It sounded like, you know what I mean? Like that really started to heat up like the last week. Have you seen the supercut? Oh my God, there's an incredible video. It came out before The Last Jedi, and I'll send it to you. But it is just an incredible some hero. It's a well-known account, but it took some time. And it took some digging, man, and it took some dedication. Whoever went out and found every negative sound clip that Mark Hamill did on the entire world tour, every interview, anything he was like, yeah, I hated that, or I didn't think. I mean, they went and cherry picked. It's like 5 minutes long of Mark Hamill just shitting all over this movie that we're so excited to go see. And you're just like, oh man, I'm getting worried, because a lot of it is, you know, it's like Mark Hamill's probably got a pretty good handle on the character, and he really doesn't like it, and he didn't believe in it. Like, that makes me feel pretty shitty. I don't know.
But here's the thing with that, you know, saying, listen, I respect Mark Hamill, you know, playing the part and obviously, you know, being Luke Skywalker, but, you know, listen, we all change. I mean, the fact is, the last time he played Luke Skywalker was, what at this point, 35 years ago? Like, it's not like, you know, that, and he did it for 3 films, and I absolutely respect, you know, his opinion on the character, but, you know, listen, I mean, you know, there are some actors and people who've done characters, and I don't have the examples off the top of my head, but you and I both know this. I'm pretty sure Battlestar Galactica is one of the examples where, you know, people from the show, you know, fell so in love with the characters, they end up writing comics, or they write, you know, their own stories about the characters and things like that, and some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are kind of like, what the hell is this? Listen, I respect Mark Hamill's opinion, absolutely. He is Luke Skywalker, but at the same time, who knows? I mean, you know, if you remember correctly, Luke Skywalker, you know, or excuse me, Mark Hamill, when he did that podcast or that show with Kevin Smith a few years ago, Dinner for Five, you know, he's the one who said he advocated for Luke to turn evil. Like, he wanted Luke to become, you know, a Sith. He wanted him to become a bad guy. Now, that to me is a much more dramatic turn than...
I would have loved to see that.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, in terms of character, you know what I mean? In terms of character, that would have been a much more dramatic shift than just kind of like a curmudgeon Luke Skywalker who shuts himself off from the Force and doesn't want anything to do with it.
I think that was Hamill's biggest thing, was kind of his overall attitude and closing himself off and going away to hide and die. I think that's what he had the biggest problems with, because I don't think Hamill would have minded playing a go-getter evil Luke Skywalker, but I think kind of the even an optimist can turn evil, right? I mean, it takes some real balls to be that crazy and evil. So I mean, I think his biggest gripe might have been just the kind of closed in, grumpy, nothing matters, we're all just. I think that was maybe his biggest problem. I don't know.
If you think about it, there's 2 things I would say. One, about turning him evil, is that Luke was always kind of the symbol of hope and the symbol of good. You turn him evil and it kind of changed. If they came back with The Force Awakens and Luke was the one leading the First Order, you kind of feel like they just retconned everything they did in those first 3 movies. Like, everything he built for, everything he stood for, if you make him a bad guy all of a sudden, it's like, what was that all for? You know what I mean? Like, you kind of ruin the original trilogy by doing that. But in the flip side, with Last Jedi and Force Awakens, they basically turned him into Yoda. I mean, when Yoda left, as horrible as those prequels were, if you remember at the end of the last prequel, you know, he just kind of leaves and goes into solitude. When Luke finds him on Dagobah, like, he's not curmudgeon. He's just like, he's acting like a weird troll character, but he's kind of the same way. He's just like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Like, this is not what you think it's going to be, like that kind of thing. And they eventually draw him back into that in his own way with Rey. But I kind of like, because that's, to me, Luke became Yoda. Yoda became so disenchanted. The problem we had, or the problem why it's such a big change in the character, is because we don't see that. All we saw were those couple of flashbacks with him and Kylo. If there had been like some sort of prequel, like, I know that sounds stupid, but like a prequel before Force Awakens, like an hour special where they basically told us what happened between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, Awakens, like that would have been cool because then you could have seen some of these transformations. Because I don't have a problem with Luke shutting off the Force and like basically saying, I failed, I'm done. I can't do this anymore because when I tried to do it, I did the exact same thing that Obi-Wan did. I failed my guy and I've ruined it and I can't do this anymore. Like shutting himself out, very much like Yoda did, very much like Obi-Wan did. Like this is a pattern we're seeing develop in the Jedis, when they screw up, they kind of give up, you know what I mean? And so I don't have a problem with that. I think we should have just gotten more background. Like we saw there were 2 cool cutaway scenes with the, where Kylo's perspective of like Luke trying to kill him and Luke's perspective of trying to stop Kylo. I like that, but I wish we would have seen more of that before now, because then I think you can understand why Luke is in solitude. Like it was different with Yoda in Empire Strikes Back because we didn't know that character. We had no attachment to that character when he showed up there, but we have an attachment to Luke. When we left Return of the Jedi, he just, he was, put his father to rest, he saved the world, blah, 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 and then suddenly we pick up with him, 35 years later, he's this curmudgeonly old guy living in the middle of the woods, sucking from a sea lion tit. We don't know, it's that transformation. It seems like a big transformation from one to the other versus if they would have given us a little bit more background, maybe in Force Awakens, to where we got maybe that story in Force Awakens, and then by the time we catch up with him in Last Jedi, we're like, oh, okay, it makes sense why he's kind of shut himself off and become a hermit.
Well, apparently we only even got those scenes with him kind of standing over him in his bunk in his bedroom or whatever. Those were like last minute additions apparently, because they hadn't originally planned to show any of that, which is just insane to me. That everyone wants to know what the hell happened when he's standing out in the rain and the whole thing. That was the most dynamic, interesting part of The Force Awakens for me, was the scenes with Luke and his robot hand talking to R2 and the scenes I'm talking about, the pitch dark and the ray. Yeah. I was like, give me more of that. Give me that whole story. And to hear that, they were like, oh, we just threw that in because we thought we might need it. Yeah.
I think they just didn't. I think what they underestimated with these movies is how much people wanted more of the Jedi, you know what I mean? Like, I know the Jedi has been a central focus, but I think they wanted to make these new, like, the old movies were about the Rebels versus the Empire, and the Jedi, yes, it was ultimately about Luke Skywalker's journey from, farm boy to, hero of the universe, but there were still all these other things going on. And so I think they're trying to redo that, where you have, this plot line with Poe Dameron, the plot line with the Empire, or the First Order giving chase to the Resistance. And you have this, other story of Rey kind of learning the Force and things like that. Like, they did it very much in the vein of the original Star Wars films. I think they just underestimated how much more of Luke and how much more of that kind of connection he had to the Force. I think people just wanted more of that, and I think they underestimated it because they tried to make more of like the first films. And I don't, like I said, I know it sounds like I'm making big complaints about the movie. There are minor details that I didn't like, but ultimately I still like the movie. Like, I can look past some of the minor things I wish they would have done more of versus just completely, discounting the entire film.
Well, no, I'm curious where you want to go with this moving forward, because I think Rian Johnson's out making the rounds going like, oh yeah, or JJ or Rian Johnson, I'm trying to remember, but someone was out running around recently, like on Friday or at the premiere, saying that they were like, oh, JJ Abrams is still hammering out what they want to do like last Friday. You know what I mean? Or like 2 weeks ago. So they still don't really have, it's kind of like a rudderless ship. They're still figuring it out. There is no game plan. And isn't that kind of crazy, don't you think?
Well, if I had one big problem with this entire thing is when they relaunched the new trilogy and they said J.J. Abrams was doing it, I was all on board. I love J.J. Abrams. I'm a big fan of Lost. I liked what he did with the Star Trek reboots and things like that. But if you're going to bring in a guy like J.J. Abrams, like, I had a big problem when they announced that he wasn't going to be doing the sequel. I like Rian Johnson, by the way. Looper is an amazing movie. But when they announced Colin Trevorrow, which thank God they got rid of him, but it was like kind of like weird. Like, okay, why? Like, it almost seems like it seems like everywhere outside of Marvel, they keep trying to put too many cooks in the kitchen, I guess, and it's like DC, like, they don't have anyone running the place. Like, Kevin Feige at Marvel has figured out a way to do it all himself.
Right.
But you feel like they need that. Was like, if there wasn't a grand plan of how they were going to tell this story, that's a little disturbing to me, because it's like, well, you shouldn't be guessing. You should have a beginning, middle, and end to this story, where you want to end up. Every great showrunner you talk to, like, even with George R.R. Martin in Game of Thrones, I'll come back to that, like, He said, I know how it ends. It may take me 25 years to get there, but I know how this story ends. I know who ends up on the Iron Throne.
But even DB Weiss and Benioff knew how it was going to end from the get-go.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you knew what the end road was. If they didn't know that with Star Wars, that's disappointing, because you should have known on day one, the first day you set out to film The Force Awakens, you should have known how that third and final film was going to end. Like, you should know where you're going to get to. That way you can start moving from there.
Well, also, like, you know, they went out and got an infamous, not strong closer. I wouldn't say J.J. Abrams is a great closer. He's an epic opener. But he doesn't close. Lost, Alias, those were not great endings to those projects, right? I think he comes up with great ideas, and then he can execute them to a point, and then I don't think he knows how to close. And you just handed the biggest franchise in the world to a guy who can't close. So that's kind of worrisome.
Well, you know, I don't disagree with you there. I don't disagree. I mean, I you know, for what Lost was, like, I don't hate the ending of Lost, but I still like the entire show more than I like the ending, if that makes sense. Right. You know, and I'm one of those people, like, I get it. You know what I mean? You can ruin a show by the ending. I mean, I used to love Dexter, and then the last couple seasons of that just sucked the life out of me.
Lumberjack Dexter.
Yeah. So, like, those kind, but then you get to, like, you know, like, there are people who complain about the ending of Breaking Bad, but I love the ending of Breaking Bad. Like, I thought that was a good story arc from beginning to end for Walter White. And they had a very specific game plan with that. And, like, you know, I think shows like that, you know, even if it's not what you agree with, if that's always the course they had set, you know what I mean? That's always the way they intended on the show to end, which is what, you know, Vince Gilligan has said about Breaking Bad. That's always how he intended it to end. Then I'm fine with that. Was their vision. That's what they had set in their mind as their vision. J.J. Abrams, I agree. I don't disagree. I think he is a much better starter than a finisher. But in that case, you're Star Wars. Anyone and their brother who loves Star Wars will sign up to do this. Like Patton Oswalt, as funny as he said that episode.
Oh, he's got a treatment somewhere.
Yeah, like that. Like, bring in guys who you know are writers, who are fans, and just get everyone to kind of collaborate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, get a writer's room. Get 10 people, like, really huge Star Wars fans. I mean, I know people are going to scoff at this, but, like, Kevin Smith is one of the biggest Star Wars fans ever. Like, that guy should be in the room just weighing in. Like, he doesn't have to write the thing.
Stand in a corner.
Yeah, just have that guy. Like, they just, all you have to do is weigh in one time. That shouldn't happen. Sure. You know, just that opinion. I feel like that's one thing we're missing. And again, it's not that I'm criticizing the film so much as I just think they should have done that from the beginning. Like, they should have had kind of like a round table almost of, like, you know, the biggest Star Wars people and say, okay, this is what we're all going to agree upon for the story. And you know, it's kind of like what they're doing with Quentin Tarantino doing a Star Trek movie. Like, he has the idea. Right. Now, someone else is going to write it, but they're going to write his vision. Like, they're not going to just suddenly change and say, oh, by the way, you know, this is going to happen. Like, it's all based on Tarantino's vision. That's what they should have done. And then handed it to a, you know, really quality writer and had them kind of plot out. Like, look at, I don't know, did you love or hate Rogue One? I don't know if you did.
It was fine. So here's my thing. Well, I'll break down my Star Wars hate real quick. I saw The Force Awakens twice in theaters, opening day, back-to-back day, never bought the DVD. I saw Rogue One once in theaters, maybe a second time, I literally can't remember. I own it on Blu-ray, have never opened it, have never watched it again. I went to go see Last Jedi once, have not seen it again. So that's my, like, depth chart of the recent Star Wars love or hate. Yeah.
But, like, so
I like Rogue One for what it's worth, though.
Yeah. Well, and see, Rogue One, once again, they had an end road, right? They knew where they were going to end up. The end up was, you know, the beginning of New Hope. Like, that was the whole point. And, like, that's what so many people liked about that movie, is how it kind of bled over into New Hope, which is obviously, you know, a classic. They had an end road. They knew exactly where they had to get there. And I love that movie didn't toy with our emotions, and, like, suddenly we're going to have some of these characters popping up in future Star Wars movies. Like, they killed everybody. You know what I mean? Like, these people did not survive. We know that. But the end result was getting the plans of the Death Star to the rebels, which is how that all played out. And I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed the fact that they didn't pull punches. Like, we knew where we needed to go. We got there. And I think that, and they did a good way of getting there. And I think that's the problem we're missing with these new Star Wars movies, is if they really didn't have an end road, if they really didn't have here's where we end up with, the Republic being rebuilt, or Rey's going to be the savior, or Poe Dameron's going to be the king. I don't know. Like, if there's no end road to this, then yeah, it's a little disappointing because you don't really want them kind of second guessing. Because I feel like the biggest problem I had with The Last Jedi was something that Kevin Smith brought up in his review, and I didn't really think about it until I heard someone else say it, was how much of the Last Jedi was almost like an FU to J.J. Abrams.
Retelling a lot of his stuff, yeah. A lot of what he laid down, yeah.
It's kind of like, okay, I didn't think about that. Like, I didn't really think about it at the time, but then when he said it, I was like, oh, yeah, like, that's true. And so it's like, okay, if that was I don't understand why you would do that, I guess is my question. Like, I don't have a problem that they did it as much as why did you do it,
Right. All right, real quick, because I know you got to get out of here. Give me your best guess of what we see in the third movie.
Oh, man. Well, it's going to be, it's going to be all new characters, obviously. I mean, unfortunately...
You're still going to have Rey and Kylo and some of these, and Finn, possibly. But
Finn
what do you think? Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting because I think when they set this up, I mean, obviously, I think they intended on having Carrie Fisher, which, kind of sucks because... she's not going to be there, and I don't think they should, make some like digital imagery of her or anything like that. So at this point, I feel like they have to bring back Luke. Like, they have to bring him back as like a Force ghost, kind of like they did with Yoda and what they did with, Obi-Wan in the original series, because then you have no connection whatsoever to the past. You know what I mean? So right. I think they have to bring back Luke and have him, kind of like lead Rey, back into where she needs to be as far as, like, being the savior that he was when he kind of gave up on himself, kind of lead her into the final fight with Kylo Ren. I don't know that they kill Kylo Ren. I think that's going to be interesting. I think,
I think you got to keep him.
Yeah, I think you got to keep him going forward. However that plays out or whatever that does, I think you got to keep him alive. So that's kind of two big plot points I would say is that obviously we know the good guys are going to win, but I think you don't kill Kylo Ren. I think you keep him alive, and then, there's a possibility he comes back in the third trilogy, which you and I both know is going to happen.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, man. No, I love, just real quick, I love how his pitch to Rey is the movie that I want to see. The two of them sort of reigning the galaxy together, for better or worse, kind of there's no good, there's no evil. I would have loved to see that. But I love how he immediately goes like, let's discard everything. But then as soon as you turn me down, I'm just going to assume this role as Snoke, basically. And Hux, like, the whole thing. Oh, you're the Supreme Leader now. I'll hail the Supreme Leader.
You have to admit that, but you have to admit, anything else you hated about that movie, that battle, the fight scene with Rey and Kylo was badass.
Sure, no, that was great.
I was just about to ask, to wrap it up, I was wondering if you could, because I feel like we did more of getting Damon to admit things he didn't like than David St. Martin yielding it all.
Way more than last time. 2 years ago, Damon is fighting me tooth and nail on every point.
Right, so
this year, I'm like, ooh.
For the sake of peace, it's the holidays, I was going to say, do you think that, like, give me your favorite part of the movie, David?
Man, my favorite part of the movie, ooh. I'm struggling. Would Damon go first?
No, he's got tons already. I was trying to bridge it, but go ahead, Damon, if you got one.
I just said no. I was going to say that battle scene, that fight scene was so like that part of the movie I really enjoyed. Even though they kind of flubbed up the whole Snoke thing, that part where Snoke sees him with the lightsaber and he kind of rips him in half, and then him and Rey end up fighting those guards. Like, that was a really cool part of the movie. And then at the end, the fact that he didn't become a good guy, I thought was brilliant, because that was so, like, it was almost like that Vader moment again, where it's like, oh, he's going to turn to the good side, and then he didn't. That part I really liked. I thought that was a good twist, and I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I'll second that I love the big lightsaber battle. I'll say, listen, I liked how they did Luke, how they handled him going out the way he did with the twin sons and him just kind of fading away. I thought it was great. If you're gonna do it, that's a great way to do it. He kind of dies in solitude, but he was there in spirit, and that whole, there was a lot of weirdness with that whole thing. We didn't have time to get into, and the force projection and all that craziness, but. Playing that music, man, you're watching them just fade into nothingness. I don't know how it can, it can't break through a little bit so I liked how they kind of gave him a better send out. Poor Admiral Akbar, shout out. He didn't get nearly the proper treatment, but that's for another day, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that Luke final scene, and then actually the whole hologram scene in general, I feel like that was just it was well done. Like, when he realized that he wasn't really there, all that stuff, and then whatever. That, and then that scene that you mentioned with the Kylo Ren and Rey battle, I thought was great. So, I actually, those were the two I was going to say anyway, so I'm glad they both got brought up. But,
yeah.
but yeah, we'll let you go, Damon. I appreciate it.
Dude, Damon, thanks so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate you having me.
All right, we're going to have you back on probably before episode 9. Don't worry about it.
I love it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, thanks, brother.
All right, bye.
So are you still there?
I'm still here.
All right, he's got it. Perfect. Then we'll keep it going for whatever else you want to talk about. It doesn't be because talking about length too. I don't know how long you want to go, but we can just jump right into the Disaster Artist if you want.
Go for it. I saw it 2-3 days ago. Like I saw it like a week late because you had already hit it.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to enjoy it in my leisure time.
All right. Well, I have strong feelings about it, but why don't you start? What are your thoughts on it overall?
Yeah, I don't know. It hit some notes for me. I almost got tired. It was a little almost exhausting dealing with the Tommy character for that long. I don't know how you felt. I was
gonna say, imagine being on that set because he's in character the whole time,
dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard because your sort of lead character anti-hero is so incredibly unlikable to me. I don't know.
No, I agree, but I feel like we are both in the same boat where we had never seen The Room, and then we watched it like within a week or two of seeing. So it's like we almost might have burned ourselves out before the movie even started. Like, I feel like if it was if you were a diehard fan of The Room, or if you saw it like 10 years ago and then you watched this, like maybe it wouldn't wear on you as much. But like, because I do agree, it was just like, all right, man. And I almost wanted to see like more into the other characters, but and I know the movie's about Tommy basically and how strange of a figure this is or whatever. But yeah, it's an unlikable, weird dude. And I also watched a bunch of interviews leading up. I just feel like I was oversaturated with Tommy. I agree. But I love the movie, personally.
I think it's a combination of that, and then Franco has been everywhere doing the voice.
Franco too.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, just chill out. Like, we get it. You know what I mean? Like, no one else has done... It is oversaturation. Like, I mean, there's videos... Like, let's see. I put a video in the spotlight for this morning. Put it in yesterday, and it's like him reading this in the Tommy voice, him reading this in the Tommy voice, and I threw it in there because I thought it was funny and I thought it was actually good. Like, a lot of them have been kind of dumb, but it's like make James Franco do a party trick this way and that way and this way and that way, and I'm like, dude, man, like, and to me, that's the least impressive thing. Like, I know he kind of sounds like him, but it's kind of like run its course for me. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I'm just kind of played out.
No, I agree. Yeah, like I love. For me, same thing. Where it was the whole thing was new to me. So like, I was like high on The Room too. Like, I watched The Room and I was like, oh shit! Like, this is as entertaining as anyone said. Like, it really is. It's wild. And then like certain lines I'd find getting stuck in my head or like popping in my head in situations where I just want to like say them, but I refuse to do that because I hate. It's more so with like dumb Will Ferrell movies, but when people just like incessantly quote movies over and over again, I hate it. So like, I really
you love Napoleon. Don't you love Napoleon Dynamite quotes?
It's the best. Yeah. It's the greatest.
And you weren't even because you're a young blood. I was in high school during Napoleon Dynamite.
No, well, we're not that different. I think I was in 8th grade or something. Like, it wasn't that crazy, but
I went from Napoleon Dynamite in high school to Wedding Crashers in freshman year of college.
Right.
So how much douche do you think I've had to ingest in my time?
Well, I mean, it's endless, because before that, when you were probably in whatever, middle school or younger.
Meatloaf!
Well, what about like Austin Powers before that? Actually,
totally.
I think it's either a Key and Peele sketch. Some show had a sketch where people went into comas when like certain movies were popular, and then like woke up from the coma and they just like started like quotes like "Oh, behave," and there's like quote, and they're like, "Yeah, it's not. No one says that anymore." And like they all went to coma. Like someone went to coma right when Borat came out, and like it was a very funny sketch. I don't know who did that sketch, but.
Oh, I forgot Borat too, man. Just so many.
Yeah.
Just so many of those movies. And can you imagine, like, I know, like, I mean, Chappelle show, and Chappelle's like, oh god, I walk down the street, people yell Rick James bitch at me.
With his kids.
Goddamn kids. But, you know, I wonder if you just age out of that eventually, but I guarantee you, Dave Chappelle, not a damn day goes by where someone doesn't yell Rick James at him or fuck yo couch or something, you know?
Oh, for sure. Like, definitely. Yeah, I'm sure you could think of like specific people in your life too. Like, I'm not going to name names in case they're nice enough to listen into this. But I have a couple friends that are. Yeah,
my freshman dorm, my entire hall was the football team. We all lived together. The entire football team lived together. How bad do you think it got?
Well, yeah, it becomes it was
bad. It was terrible. Plus, we had baseball players living down there too.
Oh, quick,
it was terrible.
Quickly, I actually meant to ask this when Damon was on too, but he had to go. But I was gonna say just quickly back to the Star Wars real quick.
Yes.
Did you see? I was gonna tie it into MMA just because he also covers that. But you saw Colby Covington's tweet.
I did. Well, no. So I avoided it. I heard of it because I think
you avoided it just to not spoil it for yourself. You're saying.
I don't follow fighters.
Yeah, I'm still in that world
at all.
Yeah.
I have a whole list of fighters, and that's how I would pull fighter tweets for the morning board back in the day. I don't really follow them, so I avoided it. But I saw, I think Luke Thomas's tweets like it is hilarious. Luke has like I've known Luke for years, dude, and his undying like the way he talks is the way he tweets, and it's hilarious. But his like super serious. The problem with here's the thing with Luke. I love Luke, so don't get it twisted. I think he thinks people think he's dumb because he is this like giant bro guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he you know what I mean?
Like military
like,
MMA. I think a lot of stereotypes would be like, oh, this is a meathead. Yeah, that's
exactly.
Yeah.
So he overcompensates in these tweets.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, bro, Jesus Christ, take it out. Like the SAT words and stuff. Like, and I'll see these paragraph long tweets of his. I mean, is there a fake Thomas like parody account? Like Kardashian Kierkegaard?
I don't know. Are you saying it should be? You can run it.
I don't want to do it. I don't have time. But I mean, someone out there do it. Steal this idea and do like Luke Thomas's insane SAT word. Like, bro, you could have gotten there so much quicker. So less formal, so less uptight. But it is kind of like almost the character that he has of kind of this suit. I don't read books for fun. I read books. I deadlift. I don't do it. Like, I'm a hater of fun, bro, but he's on another level of hating fun. I mean, I only read nonfiction books.
Yeah.
I bike to work. I deadlift. You know what I mean? Like his whole thing is hilarious, but but thanks to Luke. Yeah, no, I did not get spoiled. But what do you
mean? Because you saw that Luke mentioned that he spoiled it, so you just purposely went on your way to avoid it. Right.
No, I didn't even have to because I mean,
well, it was people's reactions were everywhere anyway. Not the actual tweet, but I
think it's a dick move, dude. But I mean, he's kind of doing this, and this is the worst part of McGregor is I can do that.
Yeah, the underlings. Everyone else trying to do it.
It's the lowest common denominator. McGregor is a masterclass of how to do this. And watching everyone else kind of try to do it in like the lowest common denominator way is brutal to watch.
Yeah.
The crash and burn. And you've seen so many of them try. And then they get tired of it because it's not them.
You know, my favorite, Nick Lentz did it for about like 3 weeks and then abandoned it.
Yeah. There's like people that they try and they fail and they come out of it. And then they're like, oh yeah, no, that was a total act. And I just kind of gave up on it. You have to commit. And McGregor really did, man. He did it masterfully.
I will say also McGregor that a lot of these people are like, oh, you talk shit, and all of a sudden you're fighting Floyd Mayweather, and it's like, no, McGregor also is like love him or hate him, he's a very exciting, like he delivers on the hype too, like he puts on exciting shows, so it's like you can't just talk shit and like wrestle fuck somebody and then be like, well, why am I not the biggest star in MMA? It's like because it's a whole package thing. It's not, and McGregor. I mean, you could say that there's been shit talkers before him, Chael Sonnen and whatever. McGregor is really an original character, persona, fighting style. Like he's one of a kind. So you can't. If you're the second guy in line in that same sort of strategy, it's never going to pan out.
I mean, I'm sure it's been diagnosed and to death and everything, but the trifecta of kind of America's weird love obsession with the Irish, which I've never understood. I worked in an Irish pub, and I would watch people fawn over kind of the drunken buffoonery that the Irish embrace as part of like their prideful culture. Like I don't get it. But like I would watch people. I honestly, dude, I had a boss, a manager. All through college, I worked as like a bouncer. And with a bunch of like the rugby team at the school that I was going to, and I would watch like we'd have people come in from like England or Ireland or whatever, and I'm like, if you're Irish and you go to an Irish pub in America, like, can you imagine anything lamer? and more lame. And, you know, I remember, I'll never forget, it seared in my brain. I'm like working the door or something, and there's these couple of Irish guys, or they're English or something, I don't know. And the bar wenches and the hostesses and the waitresses are all just like gushing over these moron guys kind of singing these bar songs. And one of the managers, who I'm sure is still fucking there, was like leaning against a wall, like with his hand on his chin, like just like watching them from afar, like
scribbling their name in his notebook and stuff
with the thirstiest weird eyes. I'm like, ugh, bro, are you serious?
It's funny you mentioned the drunken buffoonery too, because that really is like bragging about like our culture has the best heroin addicts. Like it's like not.
Oh, I do. I don't get it. I listen, man. Shout out, but you know the weird McGregor, like, oh, he's Irish. I think I'm a quarter Irish. So, like, he's representing me out there. And, like, no, he's not.
By the way,
dude.
everybody
Just
is a quarter of Irish at least. It's
probably,
like,
dude.
So it's not rare.
Jesus. You know, and I could go on rants about, like, ancestry and stuff. Like, I don't. Ask me what I am. I think German, and I think, like, French. I don't care. I've never cared. It's never meant anything to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, we're American. Like I get that too, because it really is like I know what each one of my 4 grandparents is, and that's probably not accurate. I'm sure, like in my mind, they're all 100% something. I have one that's like half, but I'm sure they're more than just that pure. Like I'm sure they just mixes there too. But it's like, oh yeah, I could spout off my like general percentages to you, but like I don't celebrate those cultures.
Well, what do you think Tommy Wiseau is, to get back on course here?
He's from New Orleans.
Of course, yeah, all-American guy.
He admitted it. That was speaking of the oversaturation of James Franco. That was actually a shocking interview, and I was really disappointed by the crowd. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel.
The Jimmy Fallon one?
Or
yeah,
Kimmel. Yeah, he said because he brought him out, and then he said that he was from like Eastern Europe or whatever, and James Franco was like shocked because he understood the gravity of that.
This is a huge revelation.
Yeah, and the crowd like did not get it, and I was like,
no one cares. Yeah.
Because even I understood at that point. I was like I remember him saying it from Eastern Europe, and I was like, I was like shocked he admitted it, and the crowd just did not. Because I've been to one of those shows. You don't know who the guest is going to be. You get tickets a month in advance. It's unfortunate because that was a big moment.
I was bummed. No, I was bummed. I was like, dude, the light is brightest. Be craziest. Like, this is your shot. Now you kind of like, oh yeah, no, actually, I'm from Europe. Like, don't do it. Like, bite into it. Don't.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like, yeah, no shit. We know you're not from New Orleans. I don't want you to break character. Stay in it, bro. Yeah.
This is all you got. All you've got is this ghoulish, weird character. Don't break now while you're on Kimmel.
I agree. Disappointing.
All right. So what? I mean, what else have you seen? I mean, I don't know. I saw Lady Bird yesterday. I
was going to see that or Star Wars today because I had a doctor's appointment, so I got to work early, and I I love going to movies during the day when the crowds are low, the prices are cheaper, whatever. So I had basically my doctor's appointment is at 11:30, just like a routine physical, whatever. I had the rest of the day, or at least like a 3 or 4 hour gap where there's not going to be crowds at these theaters. Tuesday afternoon, like no one's going to be there. So I was going to see either Lady Bird, which probably doesn't have a crowd at this point anyway. It's been out for a while.
Oh no, yeah, no. It was me. Ash, and then 2 couples of women, and then 1 random guy. So I think it was I don't know. I can't do math. 6, 7 people. Yeah, in the entire theater.
Yeah, so I was gonna see that 3 billboards, which I still haven't seen. I edited your guys' review of that.
Right,
and then or Star Wars. I went with Star Wars because I knew we were gonna be talking about it today. I wanted to see it at some point anyway.
Star Wars, Jesus.
Yeah. So I was like, I'll see it. But I saw that. I mean, I've been powering through. So like I watched. I'm trying to come up with we're doing like the top 10 list or whatever. So there's a few movies that I want to see that I haven't seen yet that could definitely potentially enter into my final list or whatever. So yesterday I watched A Ghost Story and Creep 2, like in one day. But
oh shit. Where's is a Ghost Story on anywhere?
No, I rented it on
rented it,
on iTunes or whatever.
You're a hero.
Yeah, I have like the illegal Amazon Fire Stick, like that thing you can download where you can stream, but then it wasn't working for me, so I was like, ah, shit. So I just rented it. But yeah, I thought A Ghost Story was good, real slow, but it creates a certain feeling.
That's one I still gotta get into.
Yeah, it's one of those where like I think the little tagline on the top of the review said something like, "If you have the patience, this is like a reward." Because I thought it was good, but it was like I don't know. The soundtrack was cool. It's just ominous music and shit. But And then Creep.
I can't remember. Is that the one with Casey Affleck?
Yeah.
I confuse it with the one. Yeah.
Rooney Mara.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Rooney Mara is in 2 movies. One that was like a Netflix original, like The Discovery. Do you know this movie?
No, I don't think so.
Am I
like her,
confusing
though.
this?
I don't know.
I don't know. And but they were promoted around the same time, and I kept confusing them.
Okay.
One is with the guy from How I Met Your Mother and Freaks and Geeks and a bunch of stuff, and I couldn't.
Jason Segel.
Yes, that sounds right.
Yeah. I don't know about that one. But I mean, I could have played Casey Affleck's part. He had like probably like 4 total sentences.
You say that.
And then he was under the like sheet. He just stood under the sheet the whole time. It was basically like, yeah, Casey Affleck.
Oh, you just ruined the movie for everyone.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? I didn't know who was under the sheet.
What do you mean? I no way I ruined the movie. That's the whole plot of the movie. Is that it's him kind of dealing with the loss or whatever. That's the whole. That's in the trailer. I didn't ruin anything. I promise.
If it's in the trailer, I'll forgive you, but I'll probably never forgive you.
Oh, it's 100% the trailer. He's like literally like, yeah, this isn't some big twist. This is like in the first like scene of the movie. That's like what the whole movie's about. But it was great. I thought it was really good actually. I mean, different genre. I could see how someone could watch it and want to like slam their head through a wall because it really is slow. But I thought it was great. And then did you watch Creep, the first one?
Dude, I've made a few attempts to watch it. The found footage stuff is so hard for me to
that Blair
get
Witch
through.
style, yeah.
And I think I'm 20 minutes into the first one, and I've made 2 attempts so far, and god damn it, I will finish it someday. But as of yet, no.
Yeah, I liked it. And then Creep 2, I liked too. Spoiler alert, it will be in my top 10 for sure. Like for me,
that's fine.
Yeah, I liked
That's
it.
fine.
I also
We'll
love Mark
have
Duplass. Like, do you watch Animals on HBO? It's animated.
No,
That's another great one. It's just I just love everything they do. The Duplass brothers, but yet to disappoint. But
did they do? Did you ever watch that show? Is it Tim's Apartment? It was on HBO forever.
No, I never heard of that. That's on HBO.
Oh my god, it was.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to. It was Tim's Apartment or Life with Tim, something like that.
Life with Tim
incredible.
sounds more familiar, but I don't know. Yeah, I'll check it out. Is the Duplass brothers though?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It sounds like it ran around some of the same themes.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happened. It got yanked off the service. Even I've had HBO since then. It's not on it.
Well, I was gonna say, I feel like
catalog.
Yeah, HBO is like almost they brag about like if you have HBO, you have access to our entire catalog of shows.
No, you don't. Yeah, where's this one show that I watched when I would cry myself to sleep working in New York?
That's weird. I wonder if Louis is still on there. By the way, Lucky Louis.
Yeah, it probably still is.
Yeah, I wonder if they'd pull it off. I could also see them pulling it off too. Just like we're gonna take a stand.
I remember I saw like a Louis comedy special on Netflix the other day. I'm scrolling through. It's like, yeah.
Well, I guess Netflix supports forced masturbators. You know, I don't know if I can watch Netflix anymore. Personally, that's upsetting.
I support Netflix in every endeavor. Not that I have anyone in my life that recently applied for a job there or anything.
Oh, obviously 100% came out. I care less about Louis. And Netflix is fantastic. And the fact that
Netflix is great.
It's such the greatest thing. As a diehard TV person, like, and there's other streaming services like Amazon is getting closer, but nothing. Netflix really is like my favorite thing that I own. Like, if I had to cancel every other subscription and everything, it'd be Netflix.
Me too, Nick. I love Netflix. In fact, I'd pay almost double for it. It's so good.
Quiet, because they're already raising the hikes. All right. So,
I don't even know if I can recommend Lady Bird to you. I guess I do. I mean, I don't know. I just was kind of disappointed by it. I don't know.
Fast talking, like witty dialogue type movie, right?
What's that?
It's like one of those like fast talking, like witty dialogue type movies, right? Like I saw a trailer.
It's not that bad. It's not Gilmore Girls level of the dialogue. That is just peak kind of insanity dialogue for me that I can't handle. I can't even have Gilmore Girls on in my presence. I can't have it.
Yeah, my memory is like it maybe was on in the other room when I was like a kid, like when mom was watching it or something. Like I really have no memory of actually watching Gilmore Girls, but same thing. It's beyond irritating. I just remember it being like the most unrealistic. Like nobody talks like that. They were so clever with like their little quips and stuff that's like no one thinks.
The timing.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. It's like it's so rehearsed. That only happens if it's scripted and rehearsed. Yeah. Like
No,
it's
that's Ash's white noise. So it's always
What?
That's her like.
it's like nails
man,
on
I
a
just
chalkboard
need-
to me.
No, she needs
Yeah.
it to like fall asleep and like.
I can
she'll
get
have it
behind
on in
even,
the
like,
background. If she wakes
Friends.
up before me, it'll be on and stuff.
Yeah, I can get behind like Friends or anything. Actually, the perfect white noise in my mind is Frasier, and I actually like Frasier, but it also is so just everything's so muted. It's like it's basically a sleeping pill.
That's actually a good one.
Yeah.
I think mine is Big Bang Theory because you can just
I want to punch.
nothing
yeah.
matters in it, and they just put it on, and it's just colorful and bright, and everyone's wearing bright shirts. And I'll just have it on in the background. I don't even know what's going on. I don't know what the plot is. I don't understand.
Yeah, that's Friends
just
for
kinda
me. It's
happening.
like literally the
Just
walls are
multiple
like
people.
purple and blue and shit in Friends. That's my like bright show where it's just like all right, like I'm not gonna even pay attention to this, but it's cheery. Like that's all I can think of. Like that's me.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't know. I'll talk a little bit about Lady Bird just because it was really crazy. Like so I graduated from high school 2005, and I went to Catholic high school. And that's what this is basically about. It's about a girl in 2002 as a high school senior at a Catholic school in California. She's in Sacramento. And a lot of the same, like, boom, yeah, like, oh, this is taking me back. Oh, the crazy nuns and oh, the going to mass and school and shit. I mean, did you go to public school or did you go to Catholic school? What'd you do?
Not public.
Oh, yeah. Parents didn't love you enough, I guess?
And you, like, I feel like if anything, you're overinflating what public school is because I was in a trash district. Like I went to like public school. If that makes sense.
Public school.
Yeah.
No, it's hilarious because that's a big part in the movie. Is her mom is like, your brother witnessed a stabbing out in front of.
We had kids get stabbed.
Sack High.
I had kid get stabbed at school. One kid came into school with a baseball bat. He was suspended for 2 weeks. Came in with a baseball bat. Like broke into the school. Our school went into lockdown where we had to like go into like get locked in our rooms. As this fight's going on in the hallways, turns out the kid with the baseball bat lost the fight. He swung the bat. The guy kind of caught it, and he was like a bigger guy on the football team, and he just beat the shit out of the kid. Like the kid with the bat lost, and then that kid went to jail. Got out around sophomore year of college for me, and then immediately friend requested my girlfriend on Facebook that didn't even it wasn't even from my school. Just like must have saw that we were dating and sent her a friend request, and that's my story about. If that paints a picture of what my high school was like, that it should.
Well, you grew up on the mean streets of Connecticut, though, right?
Yeah, I don't want to hear it because Connecticut, by the way, has like out of the top 10
it.
most violent like cities in the country. Connecticut's like got 4 in the top 10 or so. Like it really is like there's like Greenwich Village and shit, or not Greenwich Village, it's New York, but there's like Greenwich and you know all of Fairfield County that's like super rich. Like it's almost worse that people are like, oh, Connecticut, and it's like, dude, please go to my high school and tell me that I'm like we're spoiled rich kids.
No, it is. It's fascinating because do the same thing. It's like, well, I went to. Did you go to St. Stephen's St. Albans in Washington D.C.?
Right.
Or did you go to Anacostia High? In D.C. You know what I mean? Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, because Connecticut kind of sucks, right? It's like, well, this is the land between Boston and New York.
Rogan
right?
always says Connecticut's a highway between Boston and New York. And I was like,
well, right.
Yeah.
Doesn't Rogan talk about that? Like,
he says it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know jokes, but it's in the podcast. He'll like something bring up Connecticut, and he's like, ugh, it's a highway between Boston and New York. And I was like, well, yeah, not wrong. But also, spin zone, I can easily drive to Boston or New York where lots of fun stuff happens.
So you're within driving distance of somewhere that sucks only slightly less.
But 2 places that suck slightly less. You know?
Well, that sounds good.
Sometimes I want to go to New York. Sometimes I'm in a Boston mood, and I can drive to either. It's
much like Lady Bird, the main character in the film Lady Bird. She lives in Sacramento.
She wants to go to Yale. That's in Connecticut, by the way. I saw that in the trailer.
It's kind of like the Connecticut of California, where you can get to San Francisco. This is a sticking point for me. She lives in Sacramento and compares it to like we live in the Midwest of California. Believe me, I've never lived in Sacramento, but it's better than wherever else you want to get to on the East Coast. Her whole thing is I need to live in New York. That's where culture is. I've lived in New York and I've worked there. Like, you don't need to go there. There isn't. Oh, there's not. Just relax. Just stay in California.
But I feel like
fine. You're fine.
And you're definitely right.
Just go to San Francisco.
There's got to be so many people in California that are like, New York, that's where. And so many people in New York that's like, man, dude, I got to get to California. There's got to be like both things.
It's a weird
constantly.
thing. Well, no. You know what? I think you're close. My only tweak would be this: people in California don't understand how good they have it until they go to New York. New Yorkers are so they just clamp down into that New Yorkness. and just, I don't even leave the island. Why would I even need to leave Manhattan? The center of the universe is Manhattan. There's those people too that are like, oh, you're a hill. I mean, I grew up, I literally just saw this on Facebook scrolling around, but it's like, where you live, Dave, 4 of the top 10 wealthiest counties in the country. And I'm like, yep, sounds about right. And they would call me a redneck. They're like, oh, you're a hillbilly.
Just because you don't live around like skyscrapers and pollution.
Because I didn't grow up in Lower Manhattan.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the attitude of the people that I grew up, or that I was working with in New York. They're like, oh, where are you from? Virginia? Like, like DC? Like, you're a redneck. And I'm like, no.
By the way, this doesn't have to be included on the podcast, but also I feel like that's, at least if you're listening this far into it, you're probably like hankering for some of this casual conversation anyway. But I have a friend that's moving to Denver, and I know you spent some time in Colorado. I have mixed feelings about it. Can you give him, is there any sort of upside?
Where are they going to go? Row High? Nordi? Rhino?
I think he's still deciding between Boulder or Denver because there's 2 offices he can go work at, and he's trying to decide which one. Do you have a preference there?
No, I would say Denver because Boulder.
He said that's where he's leaning to. He said there's nothing in Boulder.
Oh, dude, there's nothing in Boulder. You can't eat. You can't eat, dog.
Right.
You like there's Boulder. There's one Target for the entire. For people who don't know, I don't know. Like Boulder isn't a city. More of a state of mind, and it sucks.
That made me angry hearing you say that. Like I just like,
hey
man,
like,
Boulder's a state of mind,
right, bruh? Like, yeah, if you're, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if your friend is like a hippie, crunchy, health food, maybe do that. But Boulder, like, you want to go out and have like a decent meal, like go to Denver.
I think he can hang in that environment, but living there, I don't like. That's definitely not. I think he can like. That would be a good place for him to visit or something. But I think he was thinking Denver just because at least there's like sports teams. It's just more developed.
Oh, yeah, dude. Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, I will say this. Like, Denver is great for sports because everything is like very easy to get to. I never went to a Broncos game. I went to a Nuggets game and I went to an Avalanche game. And it's like right in the city. There's no, I mean, I'm a DC sports fan, which means I have to spend about 2+ hours. If it's a Redskins game, can't say that. If I go watch a Washington football team game, that's an all day thing. That's driving to Landover, Maryland. That's an 8-hour trek dealing with traffic to try to get there and back. And I live like an hour from it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like,
it's like New York with the Giants. It's like I'm a Giants fan. I live in Manhattan. I gotta cross the bridge. Like it's a huge thing.
Good luck. Yeah, enjoy yourself. Yeah, that sucks. Sports, live in Denver. Denver is becoming insane. The real estate and everything is going up like crazy because that damn weed people out there. Right. Those damn weed people are ruining everything.
I don't associate people who have ever even formally worked in that business because I just don't trust them. You know, it's drugs.
No, you can't.
They're drug dealers.
It's terrible. It's terrible. But I mean, you know, it's like people talk about like, I don't know, like, you know, universal basic income and all this stuff, and I was like, just look at Denver. Just look at Denver. What happens? You know what I mean? Like, you just, like, a certain group of people just get a whole lot of money. You know what I mean? And just kind of see what happens to Denver. You know what I mean? And Denver's a wild case study in how this kind of works.
Well, selfishly, it's like if I'm going to visit him, which I will at some point, I'd rather go visit him in the place that has like a Broncos game. Also, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, you know,
for me, but
the disparity of Boulder versus Denver is, you know, I don't know, like. Craft beer is a huge. I don't really care.
In Boulder, right? It's big in Boulder.
Yeah, because it's a little bit more spread out. But the weird thing about Boulder is it's kind of like it's like a wannabe. It's like all the hippies that grew up, that were just Rage Against the Machine Man, basically moved to Boulder and then became Nazis. It's like hippie Nazis out there, and it is just. No one, like, I wouldn't recommend you ever starting a business there. Don't ever try to live there. Don't ever try to really, like, do anything there. If you have to be there, maybe go visit, go climb the mountain, I guess. I don't know. Like, I never did. I never went hiking. I never did shit. But it's just not, you know, the college is there. You're just dealing with UC Boulder kids, which I don't, you know, I mean, no. Don't do that.
Yeah. Well, I'll pass that along. So I think
Pass that along.
I mean, that probably does it for this. I guess by the way,
That's
quick
fine.
shout out to Luke Thomas because you brought him up. So he has that show on Sirius XM, and I'll listen. It's usually like when I'm driving home. It's on. I think it's called the Luke Thomas Show. But he was recommending, this is somewhere around Thanksgiving, and I would drink whiskey in general, but like usually bourbon, occasionally get like a scotch or something. And he's recommending Japanese whiskey. And he's like, you gotta try it. And like I never even thought, I didn't even know they had, like I don't know, I've never ventured into that part of the aisle. I didn't realize it was Japanese whiskey. I feel like in my mind I was like, oh, Japanese must be sake. And it's like they have like a Japanese whiskey, and I tried it and it's fucking delicious. So good rec.
Shout out to Luke.
Yeah, I mean,
he knows a lot
maybe
about
more
beards. Beards. Is he enjoying being part of the Barstool Sports Radio Network?
Okay, so I actually got some clarification on this. Rush 93, the channel that all the MMA stuff's on, and Barstool randomly, which they never fit there anyway. I don't know why they just gave him the noon slot for that the Combat Sports channel. Rush 93 is staying, and Barstool is getting their own channel, but it's like a different one. They're going to like some other, like channel 85 or something, like some other channel. So like the Luke Thomas show, all the shows that are on Rush 93 except for Barstool will still be on like channel 93 on Sirius XM, and then Barstool, their whole network is going to be located on a whole different channel. So it will not affect Luke Thomas's show. So they'll have a weaker lead in.
No, that's good. I mean, I guess he's not affected. That's fine. That's good.
I was actually very curious because I don't know, because obviously like the Luke Thomas show is not just going to be on the Barstool channel, so like I was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen there. But they're also not going to cancel a whole 24-hour like rotation of shows just because Barstool. I don't know that, but yeah. So I guess I don't know who channel 85 is right now. It's either a blank channel or they're just taking over someone else's channel. But the Combat one's staying, I guess.
The only thing I ever get out of Sirius is whatever they post on YouTube. I watch some stuff that way. That's it.
Yeah, I think I'm just like on auto renew, and then I just never. I don't know. I'm probably.
You have it in your car?
Yeah.
You pay for radio?
Well, it started as a free trial, and then it stayed. Then it stayed.
Got their teeth into you.
Yeah. Well, because there's enough. Like I do like the Barstool thing, because normally I'm like a fan of it or whatever. So like they'll get into things that are going on in the office, and like I already have context for it. So like it adds a little to it. And then I really like Jim and Sam, which for a long time I didn't even get that channel for some reason. It's like Faction Talk Radio or so whatever it's on. I never got that channel, and then my radio like auto updated, and all of a sudden now I get it. But I used to watch the Jim and Sam like interviews with somebody I liked. I used to watch those on YouTube, but now I listen to it just like as a regular morning show, and it's a good morning show. But I don't know. I was a big Opie and Anthony fan, and then this is basically the new version of that because the fucking hosts have changed so much. But
I love that. How it's Regis and Philbin all over. It's Regis and Kathy Lee all over again over there.
Yeah. Except it's pretty much everyone hates Opie, and he slowly alienated everyone else out of this situation. Now he's gone. So
would he be Regis in this case, or would he be Kathy Lee? Which one survived longer? Regis.
Oh, well, yeah.
Kathy Lee, right? She was hated.
Yeah, so I think Regis survived longer.
This might be a tough reference.
No, because Opie survived long. Like it was Opie and Anthony. Anthony went on a racist tirade on Twitter. And then they fired him. So then it was Opie and Jim, because Jim was always kind of the third person. And Jim Norton's like the guy I like. That's why I still listen to the radio show now. But Jim Norton was like a third party person in the Opie and Anthony show. And then so it was Opie and Jim, but then they fucking hated each other probably before that. But it really started boiling to the surface. And they had like a month left in their contracts. And like it was openly discussed on the show that they weren't going to do it anymore. So they would just like bicker for a month, which in its own weird way is also very entertaining to listen to. And then it was gone, so then it became Jim and Sam Roberts, who was like a producer or something. So now it's Jim and Sam, but I like them, and it seems like that's more chemistry. It's not Opie was basically the problem with everyone, and now he's gone, so now it's Jim and Sam, and like even like Anthony will pop back in and stuff. I don't know who cares about any of this, but the Opie and Anthony world is something I've been in for like a decade now, so it's just I'm deep into it. That and Barstool, I can rant on that forever.
Well, go for it. Yeah, no, it's all pretty new to me, man. But I think it pretty much does it for me. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure, man. All right,
we'll go for it. I mean, we're gonna have we're working on our Christmas time top 10 list. It is the dead zone out there of news. I don't know. Have you noticed this? Like,
nope. But
I'm trying to find stuff.
Yeah, you're the one searching for these stories, so I have not noticed. I've been fortunate enough to not notice that, but I'm sure that's terrible for you.
Nah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's a lot of opinion pieces. It's a lot of like, hey, here's what didn't work with this movie, or here's 8 movies that you should see, and here's 6 things I liked about Star Wars, and
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just it's the end of the year. You know what I mean? So like content on our side is probably going to slow down a little bit. We're all taking time for the holidays and all that good stuff. So
for sure, and you might as well do a little behind the scenes discussion on the podcast. But how do you want to do this top 10 thing? So you're gonna post an article about it and then discuss it on the podcast, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, we can kind of post our top 10s because we're gonna put out, depending on, we're gonna see if Eric still wants to join us, but we're gonna, the two of us, Nick and I, are gonna put out our top 10 kind of favorite TV shows of the year, our movies, things like that. And it's just our favorite things. These are not, it's not an Oscars list. It's not, Darkest Hour and Lady Bird and,
What's the one that's like some story? I didn't even hear of it until it was nominated for all the Golden Globes. It's like the story of like it's
All the Money in the World?
Nope, but that's actually a wicked cool story in general. The fact that they reshot the entire main character is insane.
I love you just dropped wicked cool in there, like you're not from New England.
Yeah, I honestly I didn't know that was like would have stood out in a conversation. I mean, I'm
you gotta be careful.
Wicked, yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know, but that is a very cool story. All right. And what's
the movie that you were thinking of? Phantom Thread, maybe?
No.
No.
It's I've never heard of it. It's like something about like Say My Name or something. It's like
Oh yeah. Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah. That's a movie I never heard of. That's a movie that I saw the trailer and I was like, you know what? I bet this is one of the top 10 movies of the year. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna invest in watching this.
You're probably gonna be fine. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably
Did you watch it?
Listen, bro, come on.
No, I don't know. I have no idea. It's your responsibility to the disorderly audience that you check out these movies.
Oh God, I probably will go watch it, but I mean,
I probably won't. To
I don't know, man. I mean, it's just.
I didn't hear of it until it was nominated, like for all the Golden. I was like, "What is this?" Like I've heard of all the other movies for the most part nominated for the Golden Globes. I was like, "What's this?" It's nominated in every category, and then I watched the trailer and I was like, "Oh, this is like just straight Oscar bait."
Yeah, I've listened to. Listen, man, I tried. I was like, all right, I listened to like an hour-long interview with the director, who is like, an Italian guy, and he's talking about the passion of it. Just, I don't know, man. I don't know if it really. Listen, not that our audience isn't nuanced enough to appreciate it and stuff like that, but it is kind of a love story about an older, like a 30-year-old dude falling in love with like a teenage boy in Italy in the 80s. And I'm like, it might be a little niche for maybe the kind of demo that we're going for here, but I don't know. I mean, shout out. Let me know if you demand that kind of coverage at the site.
It had that sort of feel to it, as if it would be like a movie in a foreign language with subtitles. And I'm pretty sure it's all English speaking, but it like I was like, oh, this is like the best foreign film. That's what it felt like to me.
Right, and I'm speaking of ignorance here because I haven't listened, so I don't know this, and I don't know the book, and but I know the general rundown. But no one seems to be like, oh. No, that's concerning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, everyone just seems like, oh, this is a beautiful coming-of-age story. I'm like...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this guy might be a pedophile. Like, once again, uninformed opinion.
Listen, hey, allegedly. Let's not throw...
uninformed, allegedly, it might be a movie about a pedophile. You have to watch it and find out for yourself. I don't know. That's what it looked like in the trailer, so I don't know. But I get you, all those... I mean, I could... Like I said, a ghost story, I could see someone watching that and being like, oh, like, it's like nothing happened, so pretentious, like... And I like that movies. I like that kind of stuff too. It's just like this one seems a little. I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably watch it.
I'm gonna do one of my like just if I'm gonna put on my hat, I'm gonna really just do it with Phantom Thread. Because that movie,
right?
Paul Thomas Anderson, a period piece. He's hitting every box. He's hitting Daniel Day-Lewis box.
He plays a gay guy too, right?
No, he's not. The whole movie is about the love affair between him and his muse.
Oh, what is it?
He's not gay in it.
Oh, wait. I might have just made a super assumption. Is he a dressmaker?
How dare you? Of course he is.
That's what I thought. That's how I just made an assumption.
Just because he's a fashion designer doesn't mean his persuasion.
I don't know what I was thinking. Come on, I don't know what I was thinking. That was ignorant and rude and bigoted of me. I apologize.
No, it's fine. You're good. But I mean, I think back in the day, this is during the 50s. So that's how you rocked. You know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of out and about, loud and proud. You know what I mean? So I think it was just a lot more just straight dudes.
Right.
Doing that high-end work. But I think the whole story is kind of him like feeling weird in love, and that's the whole thing. So it depressed P.T. Anderson and Daniel Day-Lewis enough that Daniel Day-Lewis is retiring from acting. He got so depressed making the movie.
I was going to ask, what is the latest? Is that, do you think that's real, or you think he comes back and?
No,
I'm sure he means it. I'm sure he means it when he says it. I wonder.
I don't. He doesn't fuck around.
Right.
When I don't believe many people in this world, but like, have you read his piece? Was it New York Times, or no? It was it W Magazine that got a hold of him? Good. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how you guys pulled that off. I think it's W Magazine. I wrote the lead story like a couple weeks back about, him talking about being done and depressed and all that shit. However you guys wrangled that story, good get. That's a get of a century.
Right.
You don't get Daniel Day-Lewis talking about that shit. So I tend to believe him, dude. You know what I mean? But if he told me, he's seen some extraterrestrials and he wants me to sign up for like a timeshare, I'd be like, all right, let's talk about it, Daniel Day.
Yeah.
I believe kind of whatever he says. He's pretty incredible.
When does that come out, by the way?
That is coming out December 25th, I believe. That and Molly's Game, which is just, I guess I'll see that too. But
yeah, it's super late. The only one I'm waiting on so my music list is done. TV is pretty much done. I think I told you this. So Peaky Blinders comes out. It's already out technically if you are like in England. Like Dale, the guy who does MMA with me, he has seen it all because he's in England. So he's like seen it all, but it comes out on Netflix this Friday. I love that show. I've never disliked an episode of that show. Like, I love everything. So like I'd be shocked if this new season doesn't land on my top 10. So I kind of have to wait and watch it. I can binge watch it, but I have to wait until this Friday, and then that'll be on my top 10. But I can't just put it in there because I don't know where.
Where it's gonna fall.
Right, so I gotta see. So that's pretty much the TV show. The only TV show I'm still waiting on. Movies, I think I'm all set. As a couple I'd watch, like the ones you just named. I did want to see Lady Bird and 3 Billboards just to see if they'd be in my top 10. I could probably do without. I have a top 10 already, but just to be fair, I don't know. Granted, I'm not going to see every movie made, but who knows? And then music, I think I'm done. I think I'm all set with music. So
you might be alone on music, man, because I don't.
I know it.
I think
what I did. I think I came up with all the albums from 2017 I listened to, and I think I came up with like 12 or 13 total.
That's fine.
But
go
basically
top 15 if you want.
Right? No. I just mean like I can only like I've seen like 30 different TV shows and had to limit it down to 10. But like this was like I needed to come up with. I was like, have I listened to 10 albums this year? But then I found like 12, so I cut 2 out, and then it's basically just like. Of the 10 albums I've listened to this year, which one? How do they rank? That's basically what the list ended up being. But I'll go solo on that. No problem.
Don't listen to Nick, ladies and gentlemen. He's seen countless albums. He's seen so many albums he can't remember. He's just remembering some of the top 10 ones. These are not just 10 albums that he's seen and then he's writing things down about. No.
Well, but what
he's
I will
listened
say,
to countless albums this year.
And
these top 10 are very impactful. We need you to click on that article when you see it.
What I'll say to defend myself is that I know enough about it where I know if I'm not gonna listen to Eminem's new album. And I'm actually I'm a huge rap fan in general, so huge Eminem fan. I just heard this album is terrible. Like people write articles, the worst rap album of all time. Like people hate this, so I just didn't listen to that one. But if I took the time to listen to a complete album and actually form an opinion about it, it is already cracked into like past the boundary of something that I'm probably gonna love anyway. So like those 12 or 13 total albums that I actually like listen to and pay attention to are already get my seal of approval for the most part. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken the time. And then
that's what I need you to write an article about how terrible it is.
Okay.
I need you to listen to it, and then I need come on. You got to give me the this is the worst.
I know people
this
hate
is the
that,
worst.
and I'm sure it is. God, Eminem. I don't want to be the person to say this, but he was better when he was a drug addict. So I don't know.
Well, they all are. They all are, bro.
Yeah. So
that's how they talk.
I'm happy he's no longer addicted to drugs, but man, his music is terrible. So
what was he on? Codeine?
A lot of pills and shit because it's from.
I don't know. I don't follow.
Just from his lyrics. I'm talking like his first couple albums. That's like what it's kind of all about. It's like his mom was like a pillhead, and he would get it from her and whatever. But it's more just like he had a certain rawness to him that he no longer has because he's just a fucking billionaire. But
yeah, he seems like a pretty intense dude back in the day to be on like a lot of downer pills.
I don't know what he's on.
All right.
But
all right, not to go. Yeah, we're ending on a real high note here.
So
what you guys can expect. Yeah, you guys can expect Nick's article about how horrible Eminem's album is.
Ugh.
Then you're gonna get his top 10 list
I'd much rather praise
the 11 albums that he listened to.
Yeah, I'd much rather praise. Like, check out like that Brockhampton thing. Like check that out. Don't worry about how bad Eminem's album is. Brockhampton's great. Check him out. You know.
Yeah, you got P.T. Barnum over here, the greatest showman on earth, pointing out all the best content on the site.
That's what I'm trying to do. I want people to have more happiness in their life. I'm trying to spread a positive message. It's all about balance.
See, I mean, I wrote so in the review for Last Jedi, bring it all full circle. I wrote an entire article about everything I hated about it, everything, and I was like, dude, I don't want to run it. It was just so negative, and I even wrote it trying to be like fairly easygoing on it. I was just like, dude, I just don't want this out there.
Wait, is this the one you ran, or did you delete it?
No. So I ran so I ran a non-spoiler review, just my take. I'm disappointed, blah, blah, blah. But I'm talking, I got 8 paragraphs into why I didn't like this movie, like spoilers, like when she's floating like Mary Poppins through, you know what I mean, and the bombers.
I was wondering, and you said Mary Poppins, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But what you just said, I was like, oh yeah, that was just like Mary Poppins. That's funny.
Yeah, no, it was so. I mean, it's extensive, and I was just like, I don't want to. I just didn't want to put it out there, dude. I was like, this is so negative. I don't want it on my soul. You know what I mean? But keep an eye out for that Eminem Sucks article from Nick, though. That's definitely coming.
I believe one of the original promises of me contributing to the site is that I can write about what I want to write about. All of a sudden, I'm getting assignments from my editor. I have to write a hate piece on Eminem.
I'm pulling rank.
He's going to diss me in his next album now.
The problem with that is it's a fascinating dilemma that I've never been an editor. I've always had editors. You know what I mean? And now that the tables have turned, you see that. You're like, oh man, this would be an incredible thing, but like no one wants to do it. You know what I mean? So you're like, well, I don't want to do it either. And if I don't want to do it, then I can't ask someone else to do it.
Right.
But there's so many things that it's a weird thing, but it's made me appreciate the role. You know what I mean? Because I never really had beef with my editors. Maybe Kid Nate. I think I had the biggest beef with Kid Nate back in the day.
Just like demanding stuff of you? No,
like this was back in the day. This is like 2009. And, you know, I don't want to get into it or whatever, but it was just basically like, I'm your boss. You do what I tell you. You know what I mean? Like, I love Kid Nate. But we had like not a blowout exactly, but like back in the 10 years ago, like, whoa, dude. All right. Like I was in charge of a site that's now defunct called Watch Caleb Run. And it's one of the early MMA sites on SB Nation. You might remember it.
I actually don't.
No, I mean, it goes back.
Wow.
With like me and like Zach Woods was there, but he couldn't do it, so I took it over, and I basically got this dude who was like forced on me, who was like, I was just rocking and rolling. I think I was writing under my own name. I don't know, I can't remember. And then I got this dude like, you know, hey, just this guy's gonna be part of the site now. Just send him things to write, and he was posting stuff that was like super belligerent. And he posted an article that was like some guy had like emailed me and been like, hey, you know, I said that like I think he took a paragraph that was, he copy and pasted something from like a paid site, and the guy didn't want us to just copy and paste. It'd be like going to Meltzer's MMA review, whatever, like his newsletter, copy and pasting like the juiciest nugget in there, and then just pasting it on your site and running it as a story.
Yeah, well.
And I was like, oh yeah, no, I get why that. Totally. I'll be like, oh, I'd be pissed too. Like, he's trying to make a living selling that. And this guy got all upset, and he was like, hey, can you please, you know, take this article down? You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I totally understand. So I took the article down. I think Kid Nate put it back up, or there was some confusion about it, or the dude like complained about me trying to, I don't know. I think that was the only real editorial like argument I've had. You know, I'm fairly easygoing about most of this stuff.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And I'm sure people are in hell situations, but like I don't hate you yet. And well. And Dale Jordan I was working with for like, or still working with for, you know, 4 or 5 years, and we've never even butted heads. But there's been other people that have written for the website or part of the website that are no longer, that there's been a lot of like, you know, I think it's fairly common that there's beef in creative type partner situations, but I mean, I've been lucky in my situation, so.
Yeah. Well,
all right, well,
we're trying to do it easy going, but you know, I'll definitely hold your feet to the fire.
Yeah.
When I find some viral,
I'll write that
crazy story. No, I'm just teasing. All right, bro. I'm gonna get out of
here.
Yeah,
no problem. All right, we'll just wrap it up there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Long one. I don't know. We still haven't really nailed down the duration of these. It might just be whatever we're feeling, however much we have to talk about. I don't think people really care. I think people will listen to whatever we put out. So yeah.
We value your opinion, people. You will listen to whatever we put out. You will.
The quality is always going to be there, but it'll be like, it's like a natural, if like, there's not that much to talk about, we're not going to drag it into a set hour block. And if there's a ton of stuff to talk about, we're not going to be like, all right, well, we're at the hour mark, see you later. Like, I think we're just going to kind of flow with however the flow of the conversation is going. So at least the one thing we can stand by is going to be the quality of whatever this is. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you give us a like. The big thing, honestly, at this stage too, the biggest thing is just, if you like the podcast at all, just tell people about it. Like, that's share it on social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Literally word of mouth. Be like, check out this podcast. Like that, you'd be shocked. It might seem like the smallest thing that actually goes a long way. Trust me, that's a big deal. So if you like it, just do that. I hope you guys keep enjoying what we're putting out there. Go to thedisorderly.com for everything, the latest and greatest in sports and entertainment. Stuff that you probably won't find other places, and I guess that's it. You want to plug? What are the social media links again?
How dare you? This man works for the greatest website.
Disorderly ENT on Twitter.
Disorderly Media on Twitter.
God damn! All right, see, I forgot. So that's why I asked you.
So yeah, so just I think find us the Disorderly on Facebook, Disorderly Media on Twitter, Disorderly Media on Instagram. I think that's all Disorderly Media.
Cool.
We can't change the Facebook. That it is what it is.
Oh, you can't change like the backslash whatever.
Once you make kind of a username, I think that's what you got. So
well, like I said, I think we talked about this. No one types in Facebook. Like they go into the search bar and type in disorderly. That's what you should.
Yep, it's the least impactful. So who cares? Yep.
Right. So all right, that'll do it. Hope you guys have a good weekend and good holiday. Right? Yeah, we're coming up on Christmas for those who celebrate. So yeah, enjoy.